Hello, I'm Jody Wolf. You're watching Expoz April 20, 2017, 1232 a.m. in Birmingham. And topic, with all the talk about prophecy being fulfilled, we left out a few things, and I want to kind of bring that back into focus. And again, referring back to what's going to happen in Revelation chapter 12. And I'm still missing time, guys. Although I did a blog saying that my timing was off and that was my fault, and it is, but I tried to assign that missing time somewhere where it shouldn't have been. So I tried to explain that 3 blogs ago, 2 blogs, something like that, 3 blogs ago. But we still have a lot of bad things that's going to happen to the world. And it doesn't mean that it all happens on September 23, 2017. Does not mean it's going to happen there. But a lot can come out of it. A lot can come out of the event that takes place in Virgo and then Leo, the crown of 12 stars. And I'll mention that again. Mercury, Mars, Venus will join the 9 that's in Leo to form the 12. You have the moon at the feet, and just like Jesus' heel was bruised on the head of the serpent, and that was because Goliath was beheaded by David and buried on Golgotha. And this is the hill that Jesus was crucified on, right on top of the head of that Nephilim giant. You still have all these things that are being chimeras. You're talking about DNA enhancing. You're talking about the CRISPR-Cas9. These things don't go away. And again, I'm going to look at it in a time frame position, because these things haven't showed up yet. And some say that Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38, 39 can all be put together. But what about Egypt being laid waste? What about the Aswan High Dam being destroyed that will put Egypt underwater for 40 years? That's still in the future. And it does not mean that we have to be here to see that. And in all honesty, I kind of don't believe we will be here at that one, because the Egypt can easily go right on into the 1,000-year millennium and re-inhabited by the people who lived there 40 years later or 30 years later, depending on when that happens and depending on the Battle of Armageddon. If it happens a year before the Battle of Armageddon, or if it happens during the Battle of Armageddon. These people will still be dispersed. But it's talking about huge numbers. And it is Avi Lipkin that talks about the numbers of the rich Egyptians that want to come to the United States and spend money, a lot of money, buying properties. He's talking about 20 million and up to 60 million. I find that a little bit hard to believe. However, if there's a rapture of the church, I don't know how many people are going to leave. I mean, really, some people say, well, this is a Christian nation and there's going to be 40% people raptured. No, that is not the case. Be nowhere near that number raptured in the United States. I mean, that's just fact. Because you talk about taking a 330, 40 million population and 60% of them being left here, 40% being gone. You're talking about 130 million people disappearing. That ain't going to happen. It's not that big. Remember, when the road to destruction is wide and the road to safety, to paradise, is narrow, it means just that. And it doesn't mean 60% here, 40% here. It doesn't mean that. Numbers more like 80% here on the wide road, 20% here on the narrow road. And this is the same throughout countries who have Christians. I would say in Russia, there may be 20% Christian. Middle East, counting Muslim, yeah, I can see a good 20% being Christian. Look, Muslim in general, they're good people. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid, but what people are afraid of is who they don't know, and they carry that name, Muslim. That's what scares people. It's not the man. I knew a Barone, Daniel Barone. He was Indian. He's Muslim. Well, his family was. He was not. He was an American businessman that became wealthy by imports from his country to here. And he did a lot of imports. In fact, his son, Daniel Barone Jr., was 9 years old when I took him flying. He's never been on a plane in his life, but I took him flying. And his dad was in the store one day, and we were talking. He said, well, how's your flying? I said, good. I said, in fact, I'm going up tomorrow. And Daniel said, Dad, ask him. I said, what is it, buddy? He said, I've been asking Dad to let me go flying with you. Hey, if you want to go, I'll take you. I took him flying. Mistake. Not really. He was 9 at the time. When he turned 22, he's the chief pilot at Jetco at Birmingham Airport. He is also the chief instructor at Jetco at Birmingham Airport. There were 3 branches of instruction. Hangar 1 South, which I was a member of, Hangar 1 North Ramp. These are private pilots who own their planes, who keep them hangared. And then Jetco, you had an array of single engine up to Lear jets. They were the higher end. But Daniel fell in love with it, and he became an ace pilot. He still is. He flies private jets for private companies today. And all because I took him on a flight, and he couldn't get enough of it. 3 flights later, he was hooked. And he's still flying today, making a very good living. And I used to golf a lot. And my neighbor, Paul, down the road, he had 2 sons. And I carried them all with me a couple of times to the club I was a member of, Green Valley Country Club. And 2 of the sons never played golf before. One of them fell in love with it. First time he played, he was probably about 13. He got a college education because he was in the top 10 of the Alabama golfers, junior golfers. And he got better, but he found something else that paid more money. So he's doing that, but he's still a heck of a golfer. He became an instructor for a while. I've had some influence on some people that were good. And I run my home as a Christian household. And my daughters and my grandchildren know Christ. And they also know, not the little ones, they also know that there are a lot of evil that's going to come up from the ground. There'll be a soft disclosure, but guys, it'll be anything but soft. I promise you, anything but. It is considered when the 4 angels released from River Euphrates will bring these millions that have been created as hybrids over a long time, at least since the Roswell incident. And under the Antarctica, there's a huge base and there's millions. It's going to take millions of fallen stars, which are angels, and millions of hybrids, and then the evil people in general that will kill 3 or 1/3 of this population in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. It'll take millions to kill over 2 billion people. Actually, it's pointing at about 2.7 billion. Take a lot of people to kill that many. Anyway, there's a lot that's going to happen that we've not yet seen. There's a lot that's going to happen that when it does, there will be so many people left behind. They'll be terrified. They'll cry for the mountains to fall on them and hide them. They'll cast their gold and silver into the streets because it's been made worthless. But at which time does this take place? Does it take place when they cast the gold and silver in the streets in the front part of the 7-year tribulation or in the middle part of it? I say the gold and silver will be cast in the streets before we get to mid-tribulation. I say that the mountains will fall off for those that are hidden inside. And there's a lot that has to be done, but it all can be done in a very short period of time. In fact, all of those wars can take place except Armageddon. These things that have been raised underground can come out. The angels can be knocked out of the sky with a swish of the dragon's tail and fall to the ground, and they fall down mad. So a lot can happen in 1 year. A lot. When it happens, it's going to be a snowball effect. It'll start out small and very quickly roll into a giant evil world. And it will take the Antichrist to calm it down, because keep in mind, the Antichrist is Satan's handpick, because Satan is the false prophet. Satan will come those at his will, and they'll follow him. But when they get to a certain point, then it's every man for himself. In hundreds of millions, over 2.2 to 2.3 to 4 billion will die in 3.5 years. A lot of them will die too. Because I know people that are left here, they'll be a force to be reckoned with. And those who are left behind, they'll come to Christ. Not all over the world, but a lot of them. Jody Wolf Expoz. Hey, and don't you be left behind. You don't want to be. In order to survive, you have to hide good. You have to have people that will hide you. And that'll be a very long 7 years. Be like an eternity. Jody Wolf Expoz.